Commander Stahl, hailing frequencies are open.
You're watching Harrisfilm Friends. Tonight, Star Trek Italy's of Love and Honor, Part 2.
Red alert.
People. This is Steve Harry Harris and the Harrisfilm crew. Roy, Matt, and Ken. Tonight we're talking about Star Trek Italy. Had a conversation with two of the creators of Star Trek Italy. The movie is called Of Love and Honor. And they were kind enough to also share some behind the scenes footage, a trailer, and some photos. So here we go.
Space, the final frontier. This is the story of a new voyage, a new crew, a new adventure. To boldly go there where no one has gone before.
They went with one approach 2 years ago, and that was green screen and some minimal partial sets, you know. And then they went with, special lighting to be artistic.
Of Love and Honor was written by Jack Ponissi, and his director is named Walter Chiarino. Hope I pronounced that properly for you.
Jack did all of the music for the entire soundtrack. And in his so-called spare time, or as a job, he plays in his father's band. And this is an excerpt from one of the concerts.
Oh.
He's on keyboard.
Coi miei occhi vedo nero, c'è pace per me, perdo il pelo sotto il moquet, vedo nero e non capisco cos'è. C'è la musica del sud, e il profumo di sandalo e bambù. Vedo nero coi miei occhi, come dice una chiesa, cammina con sogni specchi. Vedo nero, sai perché?
What'd you think of that?
Mm,
Well, I know it's
it
not in
wasn't
English.
bad, but I couldn't understand it. So
Right, it was in Italian. He also, even though he's got an electronic keyboard, he usually sets it on Hammond organ, and you get that 60s, 70s vibe coming through. Really nice guys. And I'm looking forward to their film. Part 1 will be out, as it was stated on the screen. And in the meantime, they're working on the dub in the English, and hope that a month later it'll be released on YouTube in English. So, surprise, they've asked me to be the Vulcan. So I'll be the English version of the Vulcan's voice, if things go well.
Authorization received. Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
And you're going to do the Italian dub as well?
Confirmed.
Oh no. No, that's already done by the guy in the ears, you know. Oh,
I'd be interested to hear what a Vulcan, an Italian Vulcan sounds like.
Will, and
So I don't know what a restrained Italian.
actually, I have seen his. He did a interview in Italian. So if you go to the Star Trek Italy YouTube,
Yeah.
you will actually see in the Italian section where the actor is sitting on the left screen and the character is sitting on the right screen. And the interviewer says, "Say your name and what do you do?" And the actor says, "I'm so and so, and I'm the actor in this movie as this character." And the other one says, "I'm this character in this movie." You know, so it's like a split personality on two different sides of the screen, and it's very inventive. Unfortunately, it's only in Italian, but you can hear their voices, and I don't remember it being a problem.
Chiamare un'attività la preferita manca di logica. Quando posso mi dedico ai studi di storia, filosofia, arte e credo che la meditazione sia in grado di stimolare una maggior comprensione.
I meant from a actor's standpoint, you know, how
Right.
how it would be expressed.
Yeah, I'm very very hopeful that this will get a good reception. These are some of the photos that he sent me, intermixed with some of the VFX.
Oh.
Oh man, that looks good there on the
Yeah.
rendering.
Looks like he was held up in the same place that Captain Roth was held.
It's not too far.
Yeah.
They are near the Klingon neutral zone. Look at the planet there, kid. Remind you of anything? Isn't that funny? I didn't know he was going to have a ring around it, and I was helping him work on the script 2 years ago.
We know what timeline they're in.
Yes.
No, you don't.
They're like
Okay.
Kelvin timeline.
No, it's Discovery.
Discovery. Oh, okay.
You can't. These days, you can't tell.
Of course, they filmed everything in Italian, and they've selected most of the people who are going to dub into English.
I'm not going to audition for this, Steve.
You could sound like a youthful lady, right?
Zam might apply for that, but I.
Oh man.
Three-dimensional chess. That's kind of an interesting look.
This is the
Yeah,
director and the cinematographer.
They got some expensive
That's
cameras.
the writer. And that's the director again.
They're going
The
with
writer.
a basic set approach.
Right.
Take 1,000.
As you might have noticed, if you pay attention to the images that I showed you, some of them seem minimalistic. It's like a partial set, dimly lit, if I understood the director properly, it was his concept to make it sort of dreamlike, instead of going full bright lights, obvious green screen. He decided to go battle mode, for the majority of the film. As far as I can tell, everything's on schedule. Any last impressions, guys? What do you think about their efforts so far?
Look good. Looks good.
They have a German CGI artist who's unknown, and so he's kind of like you. He's been in the background, Ken, for a while. I think you and he would be good friends. The engines look kind of JJ-ish, like Matt had said. It looks kind of like the part of the ship is a J.J. Abrams era, and
Yeah, the engines does. Yeah.
And the rest of it is kind of TOS.
I thought it looked a little enterprise. Enterprises.
Yes. That's what they were going for, was between
going for an earlier period than Kirk.
Right. And did you notice the name of the ship?
Yes.
The name of the ship is the Tucker the Third, USS Tucker the Third.
Third. I did not catch the third. That would make sense.
And see, Trip Tucker on Enterprise. You remember he died. So this was named after Enterprise went off the air and before Discovery, or around the time Discovery happened. Another thing is, you haven't seen the story and you haven't read the script, but I hate flashbacks, and I'm trying to avoid flashbacks in our stories as much as possible. But when I use them, I try to put them in linear time. So, for example, if there's a flashback, like let's say I was revising Captain Ross' final message, and I could put in things that I didn't get to put in originally. One of the things I would have done is have Admiral Vanden Bosch call a certain someone and say, what you did, you were told to do this as a milk run, and you insulted the Vulcan ambassador.
You screwed up.
Okay, so it should start with that, and then go so many weeks later, or so many months later, under the thing during the titles. That's what I would have done, but that's technically a flashback. You see what I mean? It could be taken that way. And what they have something that happens before the titles or during the opening titles. And then the story continues like 10 or 15 years later. So that's the way to do it in my mind. I would rather do that than have the story start, hey, here we are on our cadet cruise, and then something happens and everybody looks at each other and then you go to a flashback. That bugs me. That's always bugged me. And you can get away with it once or twice in the show and I'll be okay. But if you can constantly doing it, it's so distracting. It just bothers me. I can't watch it. I can't concentrate because you just stripped my brain, I was on this track and you've shifted me over 10 feet and then back a mile. I've learned a different way of writing than what they're doing.
you have a complicated story that is happening over several locations where it doesn't really make sense to go chronologically because you're trying to all these balls are up in the air. And all these things are happening, but they're not happening
simultaneously
in relation to the other one. So you need to tell this story where each part of the story is coherent as opposed to being absolutely time accurate.
Right. Well, 24 was the closest thing to time accurate I've ever seen on TV.
Oh, well, yeah.
And I enjoyed that. Maybe it's my ADHD. I don't know. But the new style where you have to binge watch a whole series You know, that bugs me. I'd rather have the old Star Trek formula, you know, a period of episodic television where the beginning of the episode is a clean story. You're not relying on what happened last week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got some character development throughout the series. You learned that Spock was married. You learned that Christine is in love with Spock and all that kind of stuff. But it's not something that's absolutely necessary to know before you see this episode. You know what I mean? And it's a start, a middle, and an end, and everything's resolved at the end of the story in that 1 hour. That's my kind of story. And yet here I'm producing things that don't go that way. I'm creating episodic
The irony.
series that people want. That's the thing. You have this style where you want to binge watch something. Well, that's what we're producing, and it's not really my style, but I'm trying.
I was very pleased to introduce Jack and Walter to Jefferson Kelly, who has his own Beyond Trek podcast. So tune in there and you'll see me and Jefferson talking to Jack and Walter. And of course, I did a follow-up on our own channel, so be looking for that podcast.
So I hope you've enjoyed our introduction to Star Trek Italy and Jack Ponissi, and
Walter Chiarino.
give them a thumbs up when you see them online in June, and then in English in July. Until next time, this is Steve Harry Harris and the Harrisfilm crew for Harrisfilm Friends podcast special, Star Trek Italy. Have a good night. Live long and prosper.
You've been watching Harrisfilm Friends.
Hailing frequencies are closed. Transmission complete.